Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of menu and facility design, or menu and restaurant design, depending on which year you are in. My name is Stephen Hilborn. Today we're going to be talking about a few things. Now, you may have seen my message that I put on Blackboard. That's something that I want to talk to you all about in class. So if you're watching this video today, Monday, or throughout this week, please show up on Friday. Not only will I be going through this assignment with more in detail than I'm about to explain to you, as well as just go over the major project and what you should start knowing. This week, I want you all to decide, if you are working in a group, what will those group numbers be? Okay? Who's in the group? How many people? You don't need to necessarily decide on the finished concept, but ideas should be generated at this point. First few weeks are over, it's time to get to work. Pulling on my sleeves. Okay. So a few things that I want to talk about before we get into menu engineering are a couple of the factors that influence menus. So there's something that we also have to keep in mind is that it's not only about the customer, but there are a couple different trending things that people might have issues with, one of which being social. So the first one, social issues are described as current popular or unpopular trends, which are very important to understand as well. So when you think about some banned or unethical ingredients, these could be the unpopular trends, depending on where you are. It could be shark fin or exotic meats. People would have an issue with many places serving something like a zebra, panda, or even an endangered species. If the theme is inappropriate, so what you don't see in Canada very much anymore is restaurants such as Hooters. Now, there are a few, they're still sticking around, but they're very sexualized, and the environment is already very sexualized. The workplace has a lot of sexual discrimination issues already, but that's typically not something that's been promoted. It could also have to do with workplace conditions. So I already talked about sexual discrimination. There's a lot of racial discrimination and labor issues where our industry can take advantage of the ill-informed. So any immigrants that come to this country, people working under the table, not supplying the right labor requirements, not paying them enough, not paying for overtime. These are all things that happen and they shouldn't. And if any of you currently are in this situation, please feel free to come talk to me for some anonymous advice. I will not say anything, but if you do have an issue like this, please feel free to send me an email and I can give you some advice anyways. And then also some health and nutritional concerns. So ensuring that our proteins are raised without antibiotic and hormone growth, hopefully not overly fatty or unhealthy options. We already touched upon this a little bit in one of the first classes, but sustainability. So this is how we run our business. So people like businesses that run in a sustainable fashion. Specifically when you think about the huge protests that are happening around the world from young people like you, all in the name of sustainability and fighting climate change. We can do something as well. And as you will be in the next 5 or 10 years, the main, usually that 30 to 50 range is the people who go to restaurants most often, the people that go to these venues. You will have an option of choosing where you go based on some of these things. So resource conservation, restaurants, we produce a lot of waste, so how do we reduce this? We use large amounts of water, power, and gas. We have weak recycling programs at best, although Canada has weak recycling programs, the weakest, probably. And then sustainable food issues. So how do we get our food? So are we buying local? Are we buying sustainable fish? Do we have agricultural issues? So we're buying from people that grow all their agriculture with the use of lots of chemicals and pesticides, which causes a lot of runoff as well. So restaurants have an option. They can purchase food wherever they want. They can purchase style of food wherever they want. Ensuring that they do so in a proper fashion can really help guide the industry. So if all of a sudden all the restaurants in Ontario stop using supplier ABC because they have unethical, sustainable food growing operations, then the other people can start getting really popular and drive the cost down for the more organic stuff. So we can be our own conduit of change. And as an example, something like a Feast On, which is a certificate, is things that people look for. So they might go on the Feast On website and look for that particular restaurant that has this certification. This certification is basically one that purchases the majority of their food and beverage options from Ontario, unless there's not an option. Like, you can't purchase limes in Ontario. But if you can purchase watermelons or yams or sweet potatoes or beef from Ontario, we will. A couple other environmental factors is economics. So meal counts, sales data, guest expectations, all these things must be taken into account. Demographics, where your how does weather affect your particular business? So, we have 4 seasons. Some places have really rainy seasons and then more dry seasons. If you go to Florida in the summertime, it's just generally too hot for a lot of those patios. So ensuring you have misters and shade and everything else. We are very seasonal ourselves, so ensuring that our menus and our facilities are designed so that we can enjoy the hot seasons of the summer, early fall, and late spring, but also have the creature comforts of the inside and the warmth and everything in those winter times. We'll like to look at population counts, what kind of ethnicities. Canada is a melting pot. We have so many different cultures from so many different areas of the world. So, what are we representing? How do people eat? What are some of the things that we need to keep in mind? Average age, income levels, education. This is just kind of some of the information that we think about. And it's not, how do I say this? Sorry. We're in an industry or in an age of labeling people as incorrect, but research does show some things, and it's not biased or prejudiced to say certain people or certain age groups or certain levels of education do buy this way or don't buy this way. We can just look at that from the data. It's there. So ensuring that we know that information and how we handle it, and that we don't use it as a prejudice. Like, it's not bad that this type of person purchases food and beverage this way, but it's just good for us to know, so we know how to market and get the right customer. I think I said that in the most politically correct way I can, but still hitting on the truth. And then another one is the environmental factors of legality and legislation. So we have SmartServe as one option. You guys all have your SmartServe certificates. What you probably don't have is the medical or the marijuana portion of that SmartServe. So I don't know how that's going to roll out, and it probably will in the next few years, where establishments can serve edibles at their restaurants, and marijuana-infused beverages that have both alcohol and THC, which I don't know. No one really knows quite the effect of that. So that's going to be a big one. There are a couple legal laws that we must remember. Truth in menu law requires that the food that you are given must be the food that actually is on the menu. I order a ribeye, I get a ribeye. If it says that it's Australian, it has to be from Australia. If I order this dish and it says no garlic on the ingredients and there's garlic in it and I'm allergic, I can sue. There's a truth in menu. I have to get what I'm being marketed as the menu item. I have to get exactly that. And then truth in advertising requires that the pictures and marketing of the concept and food be truthful. So not putting, saying an 8-ounce sirloin and then showing a 14-ounce sirloin in a picture, making it look a lot bigger and look like there's better value. So that's a couple of those little things that I want to talk about before we get into menu engineering. If any of you have taken the food and beverage cost controls, we touched upon menu engineering a little bit. What I want to take you through now, it's called scaffolding. So in the one course, we introduced a little bit of the concept. In this particular one, I'm going to tell you how you create your own menu engineering document, and then using that to break down a restaurant. So we have a great example of the Keg restaurant, and we're going to be only looking at the appetizer menu. But I'll show you exactly how we go through and work this. Now, when we go to class this upcoming week, I will more in detail explain it. I can't explain I'll explain it and show it in much more detail now. I'll explain as best as I can just through this video, and you'll get a really good idea walking into the class. So the menu engineering worksheet looks something like this. So here we see a bunch of different columns, and I'll go through what each one means and how we get them. So the entree is just simply the list of the different entrees that are available, and the number sold is each individual entree has an item amount sold in that particular week. So we can just look at this and say, okay, tofu's number 1, steak is number 2 at 130, and pork is number 3 at 125. This N total is just asking for what is the total amount of all of the entrees sold. So we just add all those together. The menu mix is also called the popularity of an item. So we're basically just saying, okay, how on average, how often does somebody order this particular dish? And we find out that information by taking whatever the number is, 130 for steak, and dividing it by the total amount of entrees served in that period of time. And that'll get us a percentage. So it's 15%, 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever it is. Food cost and sales price, those are also the two pieces of information you must have before you are able to complete a menu engineering worksheet. Okay? So this menu engineering worksheet will classify all of our items in a particular menu, let us know which ones are great to keep, let us know which ones are very popular but doesn't make us a lot of money, which ones make us a lot of money but aren't very popular, and then which ones are just horrible and we should get rid of at the next opportunity. That's the idea. So here you can see all the different food costs that are given and all the different sales prices that are given as well. With that, we are going to determine item CM. So item CM means contribution margin. You can call it item profit as well. It's just how much money do we get to keep, or gross margin you can even call it. How much money do we get to keep after we purchase the food and then sell the item? So it's $4.65. The sales price is $14.45. So that would be $9.80 is what we would have left as a profit margin for ourselves. Menu cost, menu revenue, and menu CM are all kind of total columns. So all of these will just be what is the total menu cost. So the number sold, 72 pieces of chicken, times $4.65 each will give us a number. Menu revenue, same thing. Number sold multiplied by the sales price is menu revenue. And then menu CM is the total 72 chicken pieces times the item individual item contribution margin at $9.80 equals this total. So it's just taking the amount sold and multiplying it by either food cost, sales price, or item CM to find out these columns. And then we go through and do all of this. I, J, M, K, O, and Q. There's 6 letters here. I'll show you what those mean. But basically, once we get these 6 letters in the calculations, we are then able to fill out the contribution margin, or the CM category and the MM category, which will tell us what the classification of the individual menu item is. If you don't understand, that's okay. This whole PowerPoint goes through how in each individual line, how to do the calculations. So, as an example, the 4 classifications that we're looking at are plow horses. So plow horse means slow and steady, or they are basically a heavy contributor to popularity. So they are very popular, but they have a low contribution margin, which means you don't make a lot of money. So this might be your chicken wings that we've spoken about before. Some very simple pasta dishes, something like that, where we might not make a lot of money off each, but we sell a whole lot of them. So that's kind of where that money comes from. The stars are both highly popular. A lot of people order them, and they make us a lot of money. We always want all of our items to be a star. It just can't always work that way. Puzzles are ones that are not very popular, but we would like them to be because they have a high contribution margin. So they'll make you a lot of money. And dogs are both unpopular and have low contribution margins. If there's not a reason to keep them, then they have to go. And this is just a visual method to display the item popularity and profitability. So plow horse, star, puzzle, and dog. Plow horse and puzzle, as a hint, we want to look at ways, so if we want to keep these menu items, which you typically do, you don't want to change your menu too often. If you want to keep those menu items, you got to think about ways on how to fix it. So if it's a plow horse, we got to make more money off it. If it's a puzzle, more people should be buying it. And if it's a dog, again, if we can't think of a reason to keep it, then we're going to get rid of it. This is an index of the worksheet calculations. So if you wanted to go back to those that worksheet and you forget how to do it, just simply refer to this particular slide in the next one, and it'll show you how to do that. Same thing here. This will tell you what the index of worksheet calculations, those I, J, K, L, M, N, O. So basically from I to O, all the different numbers that you're going to need. Again, you can read this on your own. I'm not going to read the next few slides, because this will show you how to do it, each individually. And then all of these slides break down an example of each individual column. So they start with A, and it'll go through each column and show you how to do those. So what I recommend is that you try it on your own, and then you come back here to see if you're doing it properly. So I want to show you what the completed menu engineering worksheet looks like. And then we can go into, so what do you do with this worksheet? So what I asked you is to go through and start filling out all these columns. So the first one, well, let's just take a look at chicken as the very top line. So chicken, we have 72 numbers sold. I said, okay, the menu mix is the popularity. So what's the percentage of people that order this meal when they come in? To find out this, we took 72 and we divided it by 575, which is the total amount of items in the entire week of sales. So you would find out that this is 12.52. So 12.52 is the percentage of the amount of times that people order that dish. So 10 people walk into a restaurant, 12.52% of them will order the chicken. 22% of them will order the steak. 16% of them will order the seafood. You get the idea. Food cost and sales price is given to you, and we must just simply figure out what the item CM is. So that's the sales price minus the food cost will give you the item CM of $9.80. These next three columns are all totals. So as you'll see, if I go 72 multiplied by 465, this will give me $334.80. 72 multiplied by 1445 will give me $1,040.40. And same thing, $72 multiplied by the item CM, contribution margin, 980, will give us $705.60. You can also just take menu revenue, subtract menu cost. That'll also get you $705.60. Just another way to look at it, just to double check your answer. I'm just here. It's best to say this is the individual food cost, sales price, and item contribution margin, and this is what the menu did for chicken as a whole, with all 72 items being sold. Why that's important to us, or why we care, because we can take a look at how much money that we're actually spending. So that week, in order to serve 72 chicken dishes, I had to have $334 worth of product in my building. So this can help with ordering, this can help with inventory, this can help with just a lot of things, figuring out what your sales could be for the entire week, all of that. And I'll get to the category component in just one second. So we did that for all of these here. Next, we did a couple totals. So I, J, and M are simply all of these columns added together. So the total menu cost of all menu items, we spent $3,220.80 in food product. We bought that for a week. We sold all of this. So we sold $9,900.45 worth of that food product. And from that, we got to keep $6,679.35. What you can come up with this now is a proper food cost for your particular restaurant. And we're going to look at a couple other calculations as well. So O and Q. So if I go back to O and Q, O is the average contribution margin, which means on average how much money does each unit sold bring in. So to find this, I would take the total CM, so how much money we actually kept, total contribution from the whole week of sales, which as I said was $6,679.35, divided by how many covers. By covers I mean dishes, so how many dishes I had to sell to make that money. So I sold 575 dishes in that week. We kept $6,679, which gives us an average of $11.62 per menu item. So based on this knowledge, we can do all kinds of things. So it's $11.62, and every time someone walks in that door with the idea of ordering an entree, I know I'm going to make, on average, $11.62. So if I want to hit $10,000 in sales, I say, okay, what's 10,000 divided by $11.62? That'll tell me how many people I need to serve to make $10,000 in sales. You can use a lot of that. $11.62 is what you keep per person. Next one is Q. That was O. Q is item percentages. And this is just basically looking at how many items you have on your menu and dividing it. So 1 divided by the number of items on your menu. Sorry, I messed that up. So 1 divided by the number of items on your menu. So in this case, there's 5 items. So each item represents 20% of the menu. If you had 10 items on your menu, you'd go 1 divided by 10, and that each item represents 10% of your menu. So it gives you an idea. So basically what you're looking at is you're saying, okay, so if everyone came in and ordered each item equally, every item would represent 20% of the menu, right? And if we had 500 items sold, then everyone would order 100 each. 100, 100, 100, whatever. But it doesn't work like that. People have their own tastes. Some items are more popular than others. But what we do is that we use that Q, that 20%, as our benchmark. So anything higher than 20% is good. Anything lower than 20% is bad. Same thing with this average contribution margin. Some items, like chicken, are $9.80. So that's under the average. Some are $13.60. That's over the average. So that's our benchmark for the item contribution margin, if an item is good or bad. So what we do next is that we rate them based on that. So CM category, which is contribution margin, you're either going to put an L for low or an H for high. And I'll go through this in class. So an L for low means that the item contribution margin is lower than the average contribution margin, which it is. So it's low. For steak, it's $13.60, which is higher than $11.62, so it's H. It is $15.25, which is higher than $11.62, it's H. And these two are also lower than $11.62, so they're L's. And then for the menu mix popularity, our average is 20%, so anything under 20% on this column will get an L. So 12.52, lower than 20, 22.61, higher than 20. This should be an L, sorry, 16.35, this should be an L, 26 high, 21 high. Okay? I wonder if I can change that. Oh god, blue circle of death. So I'm going to try to ignore that. Oh, here we go. And that will actually be a puzzle. Okay. So now we're looking at this, and we have to just identify what these mean. So if I go back to that lovely graph right here. You know, I was saying low and high, or L and H. Dog are two lows. So anything that have two lows, they are dogs. Anything that have two highs are stars. high popularity and a low contribution margin, plow horse, high contribution margin, low popularity, puzzle. So as you can see when we go back, the ones that have a high contribution margin and a low popularity, these are puzzles, and a low contribution margin, high popularity are plow horses. So that's kind of where we're sitting here. So this is the actual keg of 1 week of sales. It's a few years old. This one is we're going to be doing the actual keg menu a few years old. What we're looking at now is, what do we do next? So we know that each menu item is classified as something. We know that menu mix and popularity and contribution margin or profit, each one has classifications, so we have to start making some decisions on, do we want to change some things on our menu or do we want to leave it the same? You should always do a menu engineering exercise before you make any sort of menu changes. So classification settings, what to do. Stars. It's good. It's popular. It makes you money. Leave it alone. It's working. Plow horses. So these are not as profitable as you'd like, but they're very popular. So there's a couple things that you could do. First is just increasing the price. Just a little bit. So if it's, $15.95, bring it up to $16.50. It's 55 more cents, but maybe that's just enough to get that up a little bit higher. If you raise the price too much, then less people will order it. That's just the way that works. You may decrease your portion size. So, if you, let's say it's that pound of wings that we always talk about. So you go from 1 pound, which is most people what they order, and you just go to 8 wings. And 8 wings might be just under a pound. Maybe because they're all different in size, it's always 8 to 10 wings. So we just serve 8 wings. You get 8. That's what most people expect, anyways. Then that's the same price. It's a lower cost for you, and it works. Or you decrease some of the other sides, so you don't give a dip with it, or you charge for it. You don't give as many French fries or celery and carrots or whatever that might be. So popular also means that the description and the placement on the menu are currently working. Puzzles. These are a little bit more difficult. So this is increasing the popularity of it. So ways that you can make it more popular. So one could be just changing the placement on the menu. As we have spoken about before, usually the first couple on a list are the most popular. And then the bottom ones you kind of lose. Maybe the very bottom one is good still, but the ones in the middle of the list are definitely lost. And it could be also the descriptor of the item. So you're describing it in a way that's not as appetizing as some of the others. One could be also, you may emphasize the meal. So you can shade it, you can box it, you can put a graphic beside it, you can move it out of the list, do something so it doesn't get lost in that menu. You can change the price as well, because it is very profitable still. So you might want to just change it enough so it still is very profitable, but maybe more people order it because it doesn't seem so expensive. And then of course we can do verbals, so featuring it. So it can be the appetizer or entree of the day. You can do a competition among servers to say whoever sells the most of it gets a free dinner or a free drink after work. Anything like that. Put it on chalkboards. All that kind of stuff really works. And then there's dogs. So dogs are unprofitable and unpopular. Generally, when you do a menu change, those will be the ones that you will remove, unless there's a reason for continuing to sell them. So this is 1 week, and 1 week of information doesn't necessarily decide if this is a bad item or a good item. If you did 3 months, then you have a better look at it, because you can say, okay, for 3 months now, we haven't really sold this item. So some things like reason for continuing to sell, this might be a very hearty, let's say a chili dish or a stew or something like that, being served in the summer when it's very hot. Like those items just don't necessarily sell. So probably should have been removed from the menu and then put back on in winter. It also could be a very high-end item, such as like a seafood platter or something very unique that although you don't sell many of them and you really don't make a whole lot of money, it's a unique thing that no one else really offers. Or it matches your concept, so you can't really remove it. And then another reason could be as well is that you already have all of the ingredients in the house, they call it, in the restaurant. So you're not pulling new ingredients in. They're not going to be wasted because they're used other places. So, it's a chicken parmesan as an example. Okay, well, we use the chicken breast and other things. We use the parmesan on our pizza. We use tomato sauce on our pizza. It comes with spaghetti, but we have a spaghetti dish. All of those things that the chicken parmesan is made of, which should never, it's always a very popular dish, but assuming that's the unpopular one, all of those items are already being purchased and brought in. So it really doesn't do us any harm to have a chicken parmesan on the menu. So those are some of the things that you can do with those particular classifications. There will always be dogs, because this is based on averages, right? So just like in a test, there's always going to be the highest score and the lowest score. So when you remove a dog, the lowest score from the class or the dog from the menu, it's going to be replaced with someone else. So you can't always. There will always be a situation where you have some of those ones are underperforming based on the better ones. So you don't want to always get rid of them. And as I said before, only get rid of those things if they are not the following. If they're talking points, if they reinforce the concept, if they make other menu items look good simply because they're beside them. And that's a great example. So we always had Dom Perignon, which is a $280 bottle of champagne. We bought it for $250. We sold it for like $280. No one hardly ever bought it. When they did, we made like $30 on it, which is not good. But if we put it beside a lesser bottle of champagne that was, say, $100, but we only bought the champagne for $25, by the decoy design aspect, they would look at the Dom and say, okay, we're not going to spend that because that's just a silly waste of money. But the $100 bottle of champagne seems like a little bit better option. Also, it could be a customer expectation. So we have a couple customers, they always come in on Friday, they always get this dish. Let's not remove it because they're really good regulars and they really seem to love it. Or as a signature item. So these are some of the reasons why you wouldn't take it off. As you create your menu, you will not know what are going to be dogs, stars, plow horses, or puzzles. So new restaurants have a very difficult time doing this because they don't have any financial history. Once you have some financial history and you know what's a good seller and a bad seller, then you can really start tweaking and perfecting your menu. So the first time coming out with a menu may be difficult. Restaurants often try to break down the recipe and cost it out. They also try to maybe compare what their prices are to similar restaurants or similar concepts, or just use some industry averages. So this could be some of the ways that you can come up with your item topics or your item costing or what you want to put on there. But at the end of the day, the financial sales of it will tell you what's working and what's not working. So that's, in a nutshell, what is menu engineering. In our assignment in class, we'll be looking at a much more detailed, in-depth menu engineering assignment. So this one here, as I said before, sorry, I'm a little all over the place today, is your menu engineering assignment number 3. It'll be given to you on Friday in class. These are all the appetizers from the keg on the old keg on Dunlop Street in Barrie, and this is 1 week of their sales. It tells you what they charge for each individual item and what their food cost is. Now we're only looking at appetizers because appetizers we can compare to each other, just like salads compared to other salads, desserts to other desserts, and mains to other mains. We're going to go through and complete the entire menu engineering worksheet, and then we'll also have to graph it. So I'll show you how we're going to graph it, where they're going to lay on here, and some different ways on how to work this. Okay? So, I will see you all Friday. Please watch this. If you're watching right now, thank you so much. Otherwise, you might be lost a little bit. We'll go through assignment 2 at the end of class as well if you need a little bit more help. and both of them are going to be worth 7.5%, so a total of 15% of your final grade. So good luck. I'll see you Friday. Have a great rest of your week.